Six figures is the new minimum wage, and your dollar just does not do what it used to do. And I'm going to cover that in this post. I crunched some numbers to try and help illustrate how far your dollar goes, and I wanted to share that with you. First off, this is not financial advice. I am not trying to take the place of your financial professional, so please do make your decision about what you want to do with your money. This is just educational content and also kind of sort of a thought experiment to say what would happen with your money and how much money would it take if you were to max out your retirement accounts. It's really just intended to try and illustrate what would happen, not necessarily suggesting that you need to go max out your retirement accounts now. You make that decision if that's what you want to do, and you figure out how you want to manage your finances, okay? Also, the calculations that I made in this video are based on a single filer, not married, no dependents, and also I'm assuming a non-income state tax state, like Florida, Texas, and Nevada. Now, before we get into it, I want to make sure we're all on the same page as far as the terminology is concerned. If you already know about these accounts and all the fun little details that I'm going to share with you, then you can use the timestamps below to navigate to where you want. But I do recommend you sit through and listen because there's a couple of details in here that I think you may find valuable. Also, you may see me glance over every once in a while, and that's because I wrote this as a blog post. For those of you that prefer the text version of that, I included the link in the description below. 401k. A 401k is an employer-sponsored tax-deferred account. I know that's a lot of words. Don't worry, I'm going to break it down. Usually your job is the one who offers this type of account as an option. They may also provide a match whereby they will contribute to your account as well for something like 1 to 3%. I will say it is nothing like what it used to be when they would be able to contribute 20 to 30% or sometimes even 50 in some cases. Tax deferred just means that you don't pay taxes on it now. You pay taxes on it later. Deferred means later. When you turn 59 and a half years old, and that is subject to change, I don't know, that could be changing at any time in the future. But when you reach that age where you're eligible for withdrawal from the account, you can begin to withdraw from the account, and at that point you would start to pay taxes on it as if it were your regular income. Investment just means that the money that you're making right now and putting into this account will be invested in the market, and when your employer or the custodian for your 401k account, when they give you those forms and they ask you to make all those selections as far as where you want your money invested, don't let the details paralyze you like I did. I won't say it's not important because it is, but you can always correct it. You can always make changes to it. So if you're stuck on that form, don't let it stop you from investing, and don't let it stop you from trying to max out that account if that's what you want to do with your money. The biggest return that you're going to get is just the sheer fact that you're contributing to this account over time. I cannot express to you how many people are just not investing and not thinking about their future and are only living for the here and now. And all I'm trying to do is to get you to start thinking about that. As of 2026, the max contribution to the 401k is $24,500. This is subject to change year over year. The IRS traditionally has been raising this by about $1,000, by $1,000 year over year for at least the past 4 or 5 years or so. That wasn't always the case. I think for the longest it was like 19 or 20,000 or something like that. And there's also a catch-up, so once you reach a certain age, you're able to contribute an additional amount to that as well. And also, this figure does not include your employer contributions. So you can contribute up to the max. Your employer can contribute to the account as well, and your employer contributions don't count towards your max contributions. You can just consider that to be an added extra bonus. Now, do keep in mind, whenever you switch roles and you change jobs, you may get a notice of distribution from the custodian from your previous employer. If you do, then don't make the same mistake I did. There are ways in which you can preserve the tax benefits of your 401k, and I'm going to cover that in just a minute. IRA is another tax-deferred or tax benefit account. It stands for Individual Retirement Account. They typically come in 2 different kinds of flavors. You can have a traditional IRA, sometimes also called a rollover IRA, but that really depends on the institution. There's also the Roth IRA. You can have both a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. However, you cannot contribute more than the maximum that is allowed to be contributed to that account. As of 2026, the max contribution limit to an IRA is $7,500. So that means you can take $3,500 and put it and deposit it to your traditional IRA, and you can take $4,000 and deposit that into your Roth IRA. But you cannot contribute more than the max as far as the IRA account limits are concerned. There's also catch-up contributions similar to the 401k. So if you reach a certain age, the IRS allows you to contribute more than the standard limitation, and that is also subject to change. So make sure you check on those limits before you make extra contributions to your account. Now, remember that notice of disbursement letter that I mentioned about that may have come from your previous employer? If you open up an IRA, namely a traditional IRA, what's nice is you can use that as the receptacle to receive the funds and roll over the funds from your 401k into your IRA. This will allow you to maintain the tax benefits, and you don't have to take an early withdrawal penalty, a distribution fee, and all the other decimations that happen to your retirement after all that work that you put into contributing to that account. I made that mistake. I just let it happen. I had to start over, and I was really frustrated when I found out later in life that you can use an IRA and you can roll over your 401k into your IRA. One thing to note about a traditional IRA is the MRD, which is the minimum required distributions. At some point, you're going to have to take money out of your traditional IRA, and at that point, you will have to start paying taxes on that account. A traditional IRA is very similar to a 401k in that you contribute pre-tax dollars into this account, and you don't pay taxes on that until you start to withdraw from the account. Another nice thing about the traditional IRA is if you make less than a certain amount per year and contributions you make to this account, they can be used to adjust your MAGI, or your marginal adjusted gross income. This will reduce the amount of taxes you have to pay because it's less taxable income. There's a caveat to this. As you make more money, the benefit starts to taper off. So, for example, don't take these numbers to heart. I didn't research it, but it's something like if you make $135,000 a year, then you can only contribute up to 90% and claim that as a deduction. And it goes up to like 170, 180,000 or something like that. But basically, there's a taper off to when it makes sense to be able to contribute to a traditional IRA and be able to take the tax deduction on your MAGI. Your Roth IRA is another type of tax benefit account. In this account, you can make contributions to your Roth IRA, and you can withdraw from your Roth IRA up to your contributions. Any gains you make to this account cannot be withdrawn until you reach retirement age, but also any gains you make also get to grow tax-free. There are certain rules around capital gains tax. For example, if you open a brokerage account and you make over a certain threshold in annual income, you'll have to pay 20% in capital gains tax and claim that on your tax returns. As opposed to a Roth IRA, you can contribute to that account, earn money on it, and as long as you don't withdraw the gains, then you will be able to make those gains and they'll be tax-free. HSA stands for a health savings account, and this is also a tax-deferred style of account that can be used for qualified medical expenses. You can contribute to this account and you can use it for qualifying medical expenses if you want, and you can also use this account to direct where you want your investments, and that money will grow tax-free. And the only caveat is that this can only be used for related medical expenses. So if you have this account, you're contributing to it, and you're also using it for your medical expenses, like you're paying out of this account as well. Personally, my opinion, that kind of sort of defeats the purpose of it. I prefer to contribute to the account and leave it there and wait until I'm of retirement age. But I don't believe that there is any penalties to being able to withdraw from the account specifically for medical purposes before you reach retirement age. Another caveat about this account is that you can only contribute to the account as long as you're covered under an HDHP, or a high deductible health plan. And even at that, it's got to be a qualifying HDHP. If you are covered under a qualifying HDHP, then you can contribute the maximum. As of 2026, the maximum is $4,400. If you are not covered under an HDHP, then you cannot contribute to this account for the months that you were not covered. So if you worked part of a year up until December 1st, then you basically take the number of months and divide that by the total sum that can be contributed, the contribution limit, and that is your new contribution limit. Now that we've got you up to date on all of the terminology and you understand the accounts, let's step into some of the examples. Also, please take this with a grain of salt. I did the best I could to try and calculate the taxes as accurately as possible, but let there be margin of error. There may be a few things I might have missed here and there. But let's assume you have a zero income and you want to take all of the money that you earn and max out your retirement accounts to the limits, and you don't care if you don't have any income. Like, I'm thinking practical use case, this is probably ideal for someone who may still be living with their parents, could possibly get themselves a minimum wage job, and could possibly take their income and just max out their retirement accounts while they still have no expenses, or just, generally speaking, just start to work up to make some savings. But let's assume that you want to try and max out these accounts. Let's also assume that you find an employer that's able to pay you, able to sponsor you with a 401k. You would need to make at least $36,400 in order to max those accounts out. And then on top of that, if you want to make sure that you cover all of the taxes and everything, you would need to make $39,387 for the year. Now, if you can make that much, then in theory, you should be able to max out your retirement accounts, your tax-deferred accounts. That also kind of assumes that you have a job, they offer a 401k, they give you a high deductible health plan, and they pay you enough to be able to take care of the high deductible health plan. Like, it automatically comes out of your check. That's something else I'm not considering, is the other expenses and stuff. There's going to be things in here I just did not calculate, and I'm sorry, but I just wanted to throw this table together to try and illustrate what this means and like how much you have to make if you want to max these accounts out. And yeah, at the bare minimum, you got to be making $40,000 a year if you want to be able to max these accounts out, and that will leave you with nothing. Like, all the retirement accounts will be maxed out, and you'll have zero income, but you will also have zero taxes, which will be kind of interesting to see. But this is just an example, and I just thought that was interesting. Now, here's the next one. I call it the renter's dilemma. Let's say you want to max out your retirement accounts, and you have $1,800 a month in rent that you have to pay. Let's assume $200 a month average in electricity costs, $80 a month in internet, and $75 a month for a mobile line, and maybe an average of $400 a month in groceries. Okay, if you wanted to survive, max out your accounts, how much money would you need to make? That would be $77,000. And that would make sure that all the bills are paid, all the retirement accounts are maxed out, but that is nothing else. Like, that is no ChatGPT subscription, that is no Netflix, no Hulu, no vacations. There's no going out for restaurants or anything like that, unless you buy less groceries and spend less than that $400 and somehow manage to finagle a restaurant here or there. But that brings your monthly expenses to $2,500 and your annual expenses to $30,000. Now, say you have a vehicle and we add $750 a month for a car payment and a insurance payment of $225. That's not even considering maintenance. That's not considering registration. That's not considering gas. That's just adding the car and insurance. You have to make $90,000, $90,500 a year in order to max out your retirement accounts, have an apartment, have a car. How crazy is that? Next, say you have a house, and your house payment is $2,800. If you want to max out your retirement accounts and make sure that you make that $2,800 payment, that's not considering a car, but that's also still considering the same expenses. Maybe $300 a month for electricity, $100 a month for internet, $75 for your mobile, and $400 a month for groceries. No car, no auto insurance, but you are paying $210 in what's median home insurance. That will leave you with all the bills paid. That will leave you with your retirement accounts maxed out. But you have to make at least $95,000, almost $96,000, in order for this to work. Let's say you have a car, house plus car, okay? You have to make $112,000 a year. One of these is an Excel document, and the other one is my blog. This is my blog helps me stay on track because I wanted to make sure that I made this video and put it in video format for people that like to watch things and just let it play in the background. So you have to make $112,000 a year in order to make a house payment of $2,800, a car payment of $750, auto insurance at $225, home insurance at $210, and that's not even considering property taxes. That's not considering going on dates, no ChatGPT, no Netflix, no Hulu, no vacations. Like there's absolutely no room for extra expenses, and that's also not I don't know if I said this or not, but that's also not considering property taxes. So there's a lot to be considered here, and that's why I say 6 figures is the new minimum wage. When you consider the expenses, and if you choose to max out your retirement accounts, then it takes at least 6 figures in order to make sure just basic necessities, basic expenses are made. And I say basic because like this is kind of sort of median. $1,800 a month for rent, that's about what most people are paying, or at least that's what's being reported anyways. But the takeaway that I want you to have from this is I'm advocating for a savings first style of budgeting rather than a debt first style of budgeting. So if you're just now coming into this world and you're thinking about how am I going to navigate all of this, if I can get you to start thinking about things from I'm going to save up to pay for something as opposed to I'll take it out on credit, well, think about that. If you put it in savings, you make money on interest. At the very least, you have cash to pay for something. Whereas if you take it out on credit, sure, you get that instant gratification, but then what? You have to pay interest, and interest compounds over time. And I don't want to tell you the horror stories that I have experienced in when my interest payments were like $500 to $800 a month because I was carrying that much credit card debt. Like, it's insane. And it's really easy. Now, I'm not saying credit is bad. You can use a credit card responsibly, and it is a good buffer to your checking account. It can help protect you in some cases because it is the bank's liability. So if you use your credit card and you pay it off responsibly, that can work out. The other takeaway I want you to have from this is I want you to start thinking about your retirement before your retirement starts thinking about you. I was definitely an anomaly when I was growing up because I was already thinking about these things and trying to figure out how to get there. And it's just not normal for a teenager, a guy in his 20s, to be thinking about his retirement. But if I can spark a couple of more to start to think that way, then that will put you in a much better camp than those that are waiting until their 40s and 50s to start thinking about their retirement. Now, I'm also not suggesting that you are required to make these numbers work and that income is a valuation of your self-worth. That I know that is so much easier said than lived, but I just want you to have this in the back of your mind to think about it, as opposed to trying to define your reality by it. Also, I am not saying that retirement is the absolute priority or the only way to build wealth. There's plenty of ways to build wealth. And you don't have to save the max in order to receive the max benefit. You ultimately are the one who's in control. So if you start early on earning income and getting into the habit of stashing that money away for later, I personally would prefer you store it in a tax-deferred account. But then again, I'm a retirement first kind of guy. Then you'd be less likely to withdraw from it. If you try to do what you can to avoid debt, and if you manage your money rather than letting your money manage you, then you'll be in a much better position than most people. The best time to invest in the market was 15 years ago. The second best time to invest is today. The truth is, most people are just not thinking about their future, and it's unusual for someone in their teens or 20s to be thinking about retirement. And I know I was an outlier. It took a lot of work and shifting my habits around to get to where I am, but by no means am I a millionaire, even at 37. but I'm also not completely broke and wondering if I'm going to make rent or phone. Like, I'm not sitting in that kind of a position. I'm also not suggesting you do what I do because your path is what you're going to do. For a long time, I have been living below my means as best as possible, and it is only until recently that I've been able to feel what some people might be able to call rich, which isn't really that rich by any stretch of the imagination. But if being rich to you means I'm able to pay all my bills on time, I'm able to zero out my credit cards and stay on top of that, I'm able to buy what I want out of the grocery store and even enjoy the occasional restaurant visit. I have money set aside for retirement and a rubber band between 1 and 5 months in savings in cash. And I'm not struggling, but any mistake could, and I would just fall right off of the track that I'm on right now. It's not even, it's very fragile. Let's just put it that way. So you could say I'm just comfortably floating above survival. I'm not drowning in so much debt like I used to be. Six figures is not what it used to be. It used to be a sign that you had made it, and lots of people live like that. I've been making six figures since I was 23, and I still live like I make $14.32 an hour from my first job. And yet I still have yet to save a million. Imagine that. Now, granted, some of that was some really bad decisions and some really bad boyfriends, but that's for another post. Are you making any sacrifices in order to make your retirement work? Have you decided that retirement is something that you're going to prioritize? Have you decided that you're going to try and make savings work for you as opposed to living on credit? Let me know in the comments below. And the ultimate takeaway from this is I just want you to start thinking about your future. Don't give up on it just because you feel like or think it's impossible, just because it's so far away. Don't worry. One step at a time. One bite of the elephant at a time. And you'll get there. I believe in you.